and welcome to Horse Talk Live. I'm your host, Lizzie Iwerson. We want to remind you that you can send any questions, comments, or suggestions to us here at Horse Talk Live at horses@rfdtv.com. We want to know what you want to see, and we'll give it to you here on Horse Talk Live. We have a special guest today. I've really enjoyed myself getting to know her and everything that she is doing to make horses happy and sound, keep them comfortable, and performing better. She's Dr. Nancy Brennan. Nancy, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you so much. It's quite an honor to be invited to speak with you about my work and my passions.
Well, it's very evident after our conversation today that you're very passionate in continuing your education and making sure that you're staying on top of your game and are able to best help horses and horses that are doing a lot of different disciplines and making sure that they're able to perform in their peak performance. So you are a veterinarian first and foremost.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you're employing a lot of holistic methods and treatments these days.
Yes.
To help horses out. So first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself and your path to becoming a veterinarian.
Well, I think the path of me doing this type of holistic medicine as a veterinarian really began when I was 19 and had my own injury to my back. I did grow up in a horsey family. My father, Dr. Brennan, he also is a veterinarian, graduate of University of Pennsylvania.
Okay.
He graduated in 1946, and I was proud graduated in 1989. But as a 19-year-old swimmer and athlete in college, I had herniated 3 discs in my back and had gone through a very long process of healing, only which a human osteopathic physician in New York City, I grew up in New York, was able to help me. And that being behind me, I proceeded to graduate in 1981 from Manhattanville College in Purchase, New York, as a pre-medical student.
Okay.
My first employment, however, was at Albert Einstein College of Medicine in the Bronx. I was employed as a lab technician in the animal lab, thinking that I really wanted to explore some research opportunities before perhaps going into medical school. Well, while in my animal lab research in the neuroscience department, we would explore neurophysiology and nerve diseases and MS, multiple sclerosis, cerebral palsy, things like that. And so that kind of sparked my interest. And as I was working in the animal lab, but the light bulb went off as when I was 23 that I wanted to be a veterinarian. So I did apply. I didn't get in my first year. I did not have English composition, so I had to go and take that class. And I was accepted to that class of graduating in 1989. So in 1985, I moved to Pennsylvania and started there at the university in Philadelphia. In 1987, during my course of study there, they gave the students an unusual opportunity to study traditional Chinese medicine or acupuncture. And out of 100 students, myself and another classmate went out to New Bolton Center, which is where we have our large animal facilities. And we were able to take that class and become certified. I had still 2 more years of studies to go through there at Penn. But during those school years, I also worked under the tutelage of Dr. Virginia Reef, studying diagnostic ultrasound there at New Bolton Center. So I was becoming proficient in the diagnostic ultrasound tool, which is very everyday. Every veterinarian has one, but back in like 1987, basically the University of Ohio and University of Pennsylvania were the veterinary communities that really employed that type of technology. I was fortunate enough while a student to go to Ireland in 1988, where I I lectured at the 100th Centennial Veterinary Conference on the use of diagnostic ultrasound.
Okay.
And was able to tour some of the farms there and show the Irish veterinaries what we were doing here in the United States. I then graduated in 1989 and began working with my father in a equine standardbred practice. It was then that I had a few cases that presented to me for lameness, and one was a very severe lameness, a non-weight-bearing lameness.
Okay.
They thought it was a lock stifle, and I could say that 3 months out of vet school I didn't know a whole lot, but I knew what a lock stifle was. And so when I got to evaluate that horse, who was shaking all over, And I palpated, using, again, we use all our tools, our eyes and hands, and I noticed there was a huge swelling in the lumbar spine. And it was the size of a grapefruit. It was hot, it was painful. I palpated, and the horse fell to the ground. So I, in my mind, thought, must be a herniated disc. But back in those days, there was nothing in the literature. Now, of course, through our research, we now know that horses will herniate discs just like people. And I was able to then go to the School of Osteopathic Medicine in Philadelphia and study the human techniques. And then I extrapolated that and developed some techniques for horses or quadrupeds. I also work on dogs occasionally at the farm.
Okay.
You're
Yeah.
always having a lame animal running around. And so I was able to begin to develop those techniques in 1991 and from 89 to 91. And that's when I began, I was able to work on that horse about a year later after he had been treated unsuccessfully and still was lame. And that horse basically was still on its toe. The lameness was, went from non-weight bearing. With the year rest, he was still kind of toe, heel. And after working on his spine, he became sound in about 30 minutes. And
Wow.
so he also got back to the races for about 4 years.
Wow.
So
okay.
that was kind of successful.
So what did you do? What technique did you use to
Well,
initially heal that
after
horse?
studying the anatomy of the spine, I realized that basically when discs herniate, the horses and people, the gravity helps us herniate our discs. But the horses can actually have dorsal spinal compression where they'll get bulging discs, then cause disc pain. So I just developed techniques using, back in those days, both my hands
Okay.
and blocks of wood to help me open up that spinal
Okay.
area.
And so now your treatments include, and what we'll be looking at today are 4 different treatments that you use on a regular basis for your clients and your patients. And so what we'll be talking about today